didn't ask for a fight, but when Team USA stripped her of her signature number without explanation, she didn't back down. The change from 22 to 17 might seem minor on paper, but in reality, it symbolized something much larger. An institution refusing to respect the identity of the player who's done more than almost anyone to elevate the sport. Despite number 22 being fully available, the decision was enforced unilaterally, revealing a sharp disconnect between Team USA's leadership and the values today's athletes hold. For Clark, this wasn't just a jersey, it was a line in the sand. And her response didn't just rattle the organization. It exposed a system more concerned with control than collaboration.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
What followed was a scramble from within. Sue Bird, now managing the fallout, found herself at the center of a mess that could have easily been avoided with mutual respect. But the implications go beyond one player's jersey. This episode highlights how traditional sports institutions continue to undervalue and marginalize female athletes, even as those athletes are becoming global powerhouses with brands, platforms, and leverage. Caitlin Clark's rejection of the number switch is a challenge to the old model, and a demand that the future of women's sports be built on respect, recognition, and player-driven identity. Sue Bird is panicking, and at this point, who wouldn't be? The jersey number scandal that Team USA thought they could quietly push through has officially blown up in their faces. Caitlin Clark, the player fueling the biggest boom in women's basketball in decades, has walked. She's out, off the roster, done for now, and it all started with a number. Number 22, to be exact. Clark's number, her brand, her identity, and somehow, someone in Team USA leadership thought it was a good idea to strip it away. Not for policy reasons, not for fairness, not because someone else already had it, but just because no justification, no conversation, no respect. They assigned her number 17, unceremoniously, publicly. And that's where things went completely off the rails. Because this isn't a rookie trying to prove herself. This is Caitlin Clark, the most watched, most discussed, and most influential name in women's basketball right now. She's the reason arenas are selling out. She's why people who never watched a single NCAA game now know when WNBA tip-off is. She's the spark that lit the fire, and Team USA tried to dim it. And now Sue Bird, sitting at the top of this operation as Team USA's managing director, is feeling the heat. The PR disaster is undeniable. The backlash is loud, and the calls are coming from inside the house. Athletes, fans, analysts, everyone's asking the same thing. Why would you treat the face of the sport like this? How do you take one of the most visible athletes in the world and publicly undercut her identity over something as symbolic and loaded as a jersey number? Because make no mistake, number 22 isn't just some random choice for Caitlin Clark. It's not decoration. It's history. It's the number that's followed her through record-breaking college games, through endorsement deals, through every piece of media footage that's made her name synonymous with modern women's basketball. It's the number people buy, the number kids wear, the number that sells tickets. And instead of understanding the cultural weight of that, Team USA sent her out as number 17 on a printed roster like it was nothing. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't someone mislabeling a jersey bag. It was deliberate. It was strategic. It was a move rooted in control, and in a system that still hasn't adapted to the new reality of athlete empowerment. And Caitlin Clark responded the only way that made sense. She quit. She took the one action that Team USA didn't see coming. She walked away, mid-camp, refusing to play under conditions that disrespected her, her brand, and everything she's worked for. It wasn't just defiance. It was a reset, a message. Because the fact is, this was never just about a number. It's about what that number represents, control over your identity, your narrative, your power. And by forcing a change, Team USA was trying to remind Clark, and everyone watching, that no matter how big she is, the institution still calls the shots. They were wrong. This situation speaks volumes about how female athletes are still treated in 2025. Clark's rejection of the number wasn't just personal. It highlighted a larger issue that's been festering for years: the way women in sports are expected to conform, to comply, and to be grateful, even when they're the main reason the sport is thriving. And let's talk about that growth. Women's basketball is booming right now. Viewership is up. Sponsorships are climbing. New fans are showing up and staying. That's not luck. That's labor. That's players like Caitlin Clark putting in the work, bringing their stories, their talent, and yes, their brand to the court and making the league impossible to ignore. But Team USA's treatment of Clark reveals the cultural lag still embedded in the system. The old mindset that says athletes should just be happy to be there, that they shouldn't make demands, that they don't own their identities once they're in uniform. This is why the public response has been so sharp. It's not just fans angry about a number. It's a reckoning. People are watching how this was handled and realizing it's not a fluke, it's a pattern, a repeat offense. From Clark's earlier Olympic snub to now, this jersey mess, there's a consistent thread, an effort to sideline, minimize, or dilute the impact of the very athletes bringing value to the table. And Sue Bird? She's now stuck trying to defend an organization that just undermined its own credibility. Her role was supposed to be about evolution, about moving Team USA into a new era of player-first leadership. Instead, she's now overseeing what may be remembered as one of the most tone-deaf missteps in the program's history. This isn't just bad PR. It's organizational incompetence. It's a failure to understand that in today's sports world, personal branding is everything. Athletes aren't just part of the team. They are the product. Their faces, their names, their numbers carry economic and cultural value. You don't erase that. You build around it. And now, the consequences are unfolding in real time. Team USA is facing a legitimacy crisis. Fans are questioning their leadership. Players are watching closely. And Caitlin Clark? She holds all the cards. Because she doesn't need Team USA to stay relevant. Team USA needs her. They need her energy, her audience, her star power. But now, they've lost all leverage. If they want her back, they'll have to meet her on her terms. Not out of generosity, but out of necessity. Because she's proven she's willing to walk. And the world didn't stop spinning when she did. In fact, it got louder. This is where the shift is happening. Athletes like Clark are no longer willing to sacrifice identity for opportunity. They're not waiting for permission to take up space. They're not apologizing for demanding respect. And organizations that fail to adjust to this reality will keep getting left behind. So the question now is, what happens next? Does Sue Bird make a public appeal? Does Team USA reverse the number decision and offer a formal apology? Do they acknowledge that their approach was flawed? Or do they continue to pretend this is all being blown out of proportion while the court stays empty where their brightest star was supposed to stand? Whatever their next move is, the damage has already been done. The trust has been broken. And rebuilding it won't happen with spin or silence. Because Clark's decision marks a line that can't be walked back. She said no, loudly, publicly. And she said it before stepping onto the biggest stage, when most would have stayed quiet just to get there. That's power. That's agency. That's the new model. So what do you think? Was this a misstep by Team USA? Or was something more deliberate? Should Clark stick to her stance? Or should the organization make it right? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like if you're with the athletes. Share if you're tired of seeing the same disrespect play out again and again. And hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep covering stories that show where the power really is in modern sports. Because this isn't just about basketball. It's about control, respect, and who gets to decide what legacy looks like. And right now, that's Caitlin Clark. The longer this plays out, the worse it looks for Team USA. Because here's the truth. They didn't just mishandle a jersey assignment. They mishandled Caitlin Clark, the most talked about player in women's basketball. The generational talent whose presence alone has shifted the culture of the sport. The same athlete who dragged record-breaking viewership to her games, boosted attendance in nearly every arena she entered, and brought a new level of public interest to women's hoops. And Team USA treated her like she was a footnote. They tried to rewrite her story silently, strategically, by assigning her a number that stripped her of the one thing most tied to her public identity. They thought they could control the narrative, frame it as routine, and move on. They were wrong. Now, they're stuck in a full-blown crisis. A crisis not caused by some off-the-court scandal, not by injury, not by locker room tension, but by something that could have been avoided entirely with a shred of respect and a basic understanding of who Caitlin Clark is to the game. Let's stop pretending this was a small oversight. When organizations make decisions about things like jersey numbers, especially for high-profile athletes, it's never random. These things are deliberate. Numbers are legacy. They're symbolic. They carry meaning. For male athletes, that's always understood. No one would ask Tom Brady to give up 12. Nobody's handing LeBron 52 and expecting him to smile about it. They're protected because their numbers mean something. And yet, for Caitlin Clark, that same consideration wasn't even on the table. Number 22 is hers. It's been hers. It is her. That number has followed her from college dominance to professional headlines. It's on jerseys, posters, and now on the backs of thousands of fans who wear it to support her. That's not just branding. That's recognition. That's legacy. And Team USA casually swapped it out like it didn't matter. This didn't just insult Clark. It insulted everyone who supported her rise. And let's talk about that rise. It's not some marketing fluke. She wasn't manufactured by media hype. Her ascent came from performance, from draining logo threes, from leading her team through gritty games, from breaking records and breaking barriers, and from doing it all under the microscope, every step criticized, every win dissected, every moment amplified. And now that she's finally in a position of power, she used it. By walking away, Clark flipped the entire script. She didn't just reject the number. They forced her to reject the team. She said, "If you can't respect what I've built, you don't deserve what I bring." It was a clean break, a decisive move, and it landed like a thunderclap in a league that still doesn't know how to handle athletes who don't just want the spotlight. They own it. Sue Bird now finds herself in a no-win situation. She's not just managing the fallout, she's wearing it. This isn't the role she signed up for. As a respected former player and now executive, Bird was supposed to represent progress, a bridge between athletes and leadership, a face of the future. But that future is now marred by a decision that revealed just how out of touch the organization still is. And what's worse, the silence. The lack of transparency has only fueled the fire. No clear statement, no apology, no explanation, just passive damage control while the media cycle continues to churn and fans get angrier. Every day that goes by without accountability is another day that confirms what this really was, an act of institutional control dressed up as team policy. Athletes are no longer afraid to call that out. Caitlin Clark's stance isn't an outlier. It's the new normal. Is what athlete empowerment looks like in real time. Refusing to be reduced. Refusing to be controlled. Refusing to wear a number that symbolizes submission when her entire career has been about domination. And fans are paying attention. Social media erupted not just because people love Clark, but because people recognize the pattern. Women in sports are constantly told to be flexible, to sacrifice, to compromise, to let leadership handle it. And every time they speak up, it's framed as defiance instead of self-respect. But this time, fans aren't buying it. They're not siding with the organization. They're not brushing it off. They're standing with the athlete who took a risk by walking away from one of the most prestigious teams in the world and said, "No, my identity is not up for debate." That's what makes this different. This isn't a locker room squabble. It's not some internal politics getting aired out. It's about control. Who has it, who wants it, and who refuses to give it away. And this power struggle isn't happening behind closed doors. It's public. It's messy. And it's forcing the sports world to reevaluate how it treats the very players it profits from. Because here's the harsh reality. If an athlete like Caitlin Clark can be treated this way, anyone can. If she, with all the attention, all the numbers, all the marketability, still has to fight just to keep her number, what does that say about the system? It says it's broken. And Team USA's refusal to fix it says even more. They had options. They could have owned the mistake. They could have reinstated her number and acknowledged the misstep. They could have chosen transparency. Instead, they went quiet, which only confirms what Clark's departure made loud. This wasn't about numbers. It was about sending a message. And now she sent one back. She left, and she did it without flinching. That decision will echo for a long time, not just through this summer's Team USA lineup, but through every future contract negotiation, every team meeting, every athlete who's ever been told to just go along with it. Caitlin Clark didn't. And that's the real story here. She drew a line. One that other athletes are going to look at and remember. One that organizations will now have to consider before they try to quietly sideline a player's identity in the name of tradition or control. So where does this go from here? That's up to Team USA. They can continue pretending this was a misunderstanding, or they can acknowledge what everyone already knows, that this was a mistake born out of arrogance, and that they underestimated the cultural and professional weight of the athlete they were dealing with. Caitlin Clark's next move will be her own. She doesn't need the team. She doesn't need the platform. She is the platform. Whether she returns or not, the damage is done. The power has shifted, and the expectations have changed. Because going forward, athletes won't just be demanding better pay or better treatment. They'll be demanding ownership of who they are, of their image, of their story. And if organizations aren't ready for that, they'll lose. Just like Team USA did. At this point, Team USA isn't just trying to fix a mistake. They're scrambling to salvage their credibility. Because this isn't a bad headline that fades in a news cycle. This is a defining moment. A full-on fracture in how power is distributed in women's sports. And Caitlin Clark caused it. Not with a press tour, not with a stage protest, but with a quiet, unmistakable decision. I'm not doing this. She didn't need to shout. She didn't need to drag anyone by name. All she had to do was step away. And in that silence, Team USA heard something louder than anything they expected: resistance. Athletes aren't playing along anymore. For decades, female athletes have been told to be cooperative, to accept whatever role they're given, to not ruffle feathers, because there was always this unspoken fear. If you complain, you're replaceable. If you stand up, you're benched. And if you demand too much, you're done. Caitlin Clark just shattered that illusion. Because what are you supposed to do when the most recognizable, most in-demand athlete in women's basketball refuses to be treated like a marketing prop? What's the playbook when the player everyone's watching says, "No, this isn't good enough"? The old tactics don't work anymore. They can't spin this as drama. They can't bury it under press statements. They can't dismiss her as inexperienced or selfish. Clark has receipts. She has the numbers. She's the reason the sport is surging into the mainstream. And they tried to sideline her over a jersey number. Let's be honest, it was never just about the number. That was the trigger, not the cause. This is about control. It's about how sports institutions react when a woman refuses to shrink herself to fit their mold. Team USA thought it could rebrand Clark in its own image. Give her a number, bench her, minimize her, and that she'd go along with it, because it's an honor just to be there. But she flipped the narrative. She reminded them that she brings the value, that she is the draw, that her name and her number carry more cultural weight right now than any jersey handed down by an institution that clearly hasn't caught up to the new reality. And that reality is this: athletes hold the leverage now, especially athletes like Caitlin Clark. She knows it. The fans know it. The sponsors know it. And Team USA? They're only just realizing it, after lighting the fuse and watching their carefully crafted image go up in flames. And let's talk about the silence from inside the organization. No public statement. No press conference to explain the number switch. No acknowledgement of her departure. Just silence. As if ignoring the fallout will somehow make it go away. As if pretending it's business as usual can distract us from the fact that the biggest star in the sport just walked away from the national team. That silence says everything. It says they're scrambling behind closed doors. It says they didn't anticipate the backlash. It says they thought the public would side with tradition over transparency, with institution over individuality. And they thought wrong. Because fans are no longer buying the narrative that institutions always know best. They've seen what Clark brings to the court, to the culture, to the conversation. She doesn't just win games. She creates moments. She breaks records. She makes the sport relevant. And Team USA thought they could reduce her to a number on a roster, 17, a number with no significance, no history, no connection to who she is. Now, they're left with a program that feels hollow, a team that's missing its star, and an audience that's asking real questions. How many more athletes have been quietly stripped of their voice? How many have stayed silent to protect their place? Clark didn't. And that's why this moment matters. Because it opens the door for every player coming after her. Every young athlete who's watching how this played out and realizing that you don't have to comply to succeed. That you can walk away from the biggest stage in the world if the cost is your dignity. And that when you do, people will have your back. The message is clear. You can't build a future of women's sports by disrespecting the very women building it. Clark has nothing to prove. She doesn't need Team USA to validate her worth. If anything, they need her to salvage their image and relevance. So where do they go from here? They can issue the apology. Offer her number back. Try to do damage control. But at this point, it's not about fixing a headline. It's about rebuilding trust. And that won't happen overnight. Caitlin Clark made her move. It was quiet, but it was seismic. And now the ball is in Team USA's court. Your move, Sue. Let us know where you stand. Was Clark right to walk? Does Team USA owe her a public apology? Drop your take in the comments. Like this video if you're backing the players. And share if you think the system needs a wake-up call. And if you're not subscribed yet, do it now. Because this isn't just a one-off controversy. It's a turning point. And we'll be here every step of the way, unpacking what it really means when athletes take back the power